Hey everyone, welcome back to the sixth episode of our podcast, She Said What. For today's episode, we're joined by Alekhya Bhat, the founder of No More Bullymia, an organization that aims at tackling bullying and body dysmorphia. So, Alekhya, thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what your organization is all about?
Hi. So I'm really excited to be here, and I started No More Bulimia last year because of my own experiences with eating disorders and body dysmorphia and bullying. So I realized that I wanted to create a safe space and a platform to help educate other people and spread awareness about this, while also allowing people to share their own stories and understand that they're not alone.
Okay, that's really cool. And I see that like from your Instagram at least, like you've grown to like a large like following and like you guys have like members from like all around the world. So what was your experience like building that entire project to such a scale?
Okay, so there were actually some complications with this. When I initially started off my team last year, I think I made created No More Bulimia in June of 2019, and I put it up on my Instagram and I said, "Hey guys, you should join this. It's going to be a really exciting project. There's lots of different things we can do." And I realized very quickly that the only people that signed up were people who were looking to get stuff for their college apps. So a lot of people came on board under this guise of doing it for CAS or like doing it for college applications, and not too many people were actually deeply committed to it. And I realized very quickly that people were doing the least amount of work they could for the most benefit. And it took me a while, but then I realized when quarantine started that this was something that I really did want to take forward, and I didn't just want it to be a high school thing that died out. So I decided to completely revamp, and because I'm headed to the US for college this fall, hopefully, I ended up putting the message out on my 2024 group asking if my future classmates would be interested. I asked some of my friends going to their colleges if they could put it out there, if people would be interested in helping out, because I realized that once this whole like getting into college process is taken away, the people that really join are the ones who are truly passionate about it and not just doing it for their applications. And this is how I ended up building Team 2.0, which was full of people who actually cared about it. And I completely revamped my entire like business model. Ended up changing even the name. It started off just being bulimia, and then a lot of people realized that that sounded like quite a trigger word, so we changed it to No More Bulimia. And yeah, that's how we're here today.
I feel like it's so important to have like a place where people can pour out how they feel, what they've been through. So, since you started something like this, how was your experience like to come out to tell people about what happened to you, to listen to other people, to like have that community?
So actually, doing this was not something that I started with No More Bulimia. When I had an eating disorder from 8th grade to 10th grade, and I think for a while I was a little in denial about it. And then when my parents found out, which happened because my friends decided to tell them, they freaked out. Obviously, they did not know how to handle the situation. So I was really embarrassed because they talked to some of my teachers to like make sure that they could monitor me every time I went to the bathroom and like make sure that I wasn't performing any ED specific behavior. And I was so deeply ashamed of the fact that I'd had an eating disorder that it got so bad that if someone would bring up the word anorexia or bulimia, like in class, anywhere, like I would feel like crying. And it got really, really bad, and I did not think I'd ever be able to speak up until I think I started telling people one by one in my community, like my close group of friends. I was like, this happened to me. And then they started saying, oh, I've had similar thoughts, or I've kind of been through something similar. Maybe it wasn't a full-fledged eating disorder, but I did have body dysmorphic thoughts, or I did think about like throwing up or starving myself. And that's when I realized that by talking to these people individually, if there were so many people who were coming up to me and telling me that they had experienced something similar, I realized the scope of this and how, like, take my school, Greenwood, for instance. There were so many people, not just in my grade, but in grades below, who'd experienced something similar. So I held my school's first positivity drive in the 10th grade where I basically had students from grade 6 to grade 12 all come to the amphitheater, and I, for the first time, talked about my experience with bullying up to my eating disorder and told them absolutely everything, because I'd had some health complications as well thanks to my eating disorder. And I told them, I completely opened up to this entire crowd, and it was honestly kind of nerve-wracking for me, but the response was incredible. The number of people that stood up and shared their own stories in response to mine was insane, and honestly it was like better than I had possibly expected. And it was this drive that led me to believe that giving people an actual platform in my organization would be beneficial.
Yeah, it must have been really difficult, like you said, to actually open up and talk to so many people. But I think through that, people understood that. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about what an eating disorder is, or like how does it actually look. So could you like elaborate on some of the signs or what you think people should know about it?
I think, oh yeah, I think the thing is, like, body image is such a, there's so many nuances under this. I think the first sign to look out for is, and I know this sounds kind of basic, but it's comparisons. It's when people start to value their self-worth, like, above all, based off of the way they look, and more importantly, their weight. And I think that because of this whole concept of, like, crazy societal beauty standards of, like, having particular, like, figures, the hourglass figure, the super skinny waist and the flat, like, stomach. And I think when people start to really, like, scrutinize this, or like get into these really comprehensive diet plans, they say things like, oh yeah, I'm intermittent fasting so I can really lose weight. Like, those are such romanticized concepts. Like, people are like, oh yeah, it's so beneficial, it's so helpful, but it's not. It's quite a lot of the times it's detrimental to health. And if people feel like they need to lose this much weight within, like, a short span of time because they value getting skinny over being healthy, I think that is the first sign that something is wrong. And then obviously from there it tends to deteriorate to, like, skipping meals, thinking that eating a granola bar for breakfast is, like, sufficient, not having lunch because you're just not hungry, finding ways to excuse yourself from, like, eating dinner because you're feeling too full, having just fruits as substitutes for meals. So I think from there are gradual steps, and it's a while. I feel like people can have eating disorder thoughts without actually engaging in the behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned this, like, the entire, like, body standards are, like, shaped by social media, by society, and, like, this entire concept of intermittent fasting. First of all, that really like that annoys me.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you trying to do? And, like, the fact that so many people think it's like a normal thing to, like, not eat until like 11 a.m. and then stop eating at like 6 p.m. Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, this is a tangent
Yeah.
that I sort of want to go off on. It's like how social media, how do you think social media has, like, shaped our, like, body standards? And, like, do you think it's like, I mean, when we say that, a lot of people think that it's like, okay, yeah, it's like shaping body standards just for women, but I, like, disagree with that. I think it's like shaping body standards for, like, all genders. So do you want to, like, go into that a little bit?
Oh yeah, so I think again, like, social media is both like a boon and a bane in so many ways, because on one hand it's this platform for supporting other people and spreading positivity, but on the other hand you get sponsored ads from time to time on, are you unhappy with your body? Here's how to change it. Try my 7-week course for free.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there seeing these, like, perfectly skinny and perfectly shaped models that are, like, enticing you to follow these crazy programs. And I think that there are so many unrealistic standards, not just set for women, but men and absolutely everyone out there. There's, even for men, there's this whole construct that if they don't have, like, abs or, like, chiseled jawlines, like, they're not attractive. If they're on the heavier side, they either have to have a dad bod or, like, nothing. And even that, only certain people are interested in, and they're unworthy of being, like, deemed attractive. And, like, skinny boys are, like, not the masculine ideal because they don't have super large biceps and their arms look like noodles. Like, it's just so sad that every single gender out there has some sort of body stereotype construct that they feel the need to kind of conform to. And I think that because of social media and because people are constantly viewing like models, actors, singers, and other like people of influence kind of put themselves across as this ideal of the way people should look, other people feel the need to conform to that beauty standard and end up feeling insecure when they don't hit that ideal, which is why I think a lot of people end up spending a lot of time scrolling through like diet plans and scrolling through like wellness Instagram pages that encourage diet culture and like insane working out over taking care of yourself and self-care and just generally trying to be healthy.
And like adding on to what you said, like I want to take this towards size inclusivity, because you have like ad campaigns with like women who are very skinny, men who have abs, and like it's just this picture of, we have a picture in our head that, you know, we have to look that way. So do you have anything for people who go through this, who actually look up to, you know, advertisements and say that, okay, I want to look like that, but, and they start, you know, self-hate starts building up. So how do you think people should battle that?
I think okay, so this is kind of related, but this is something that I did. So I would really compare myself to a lot of people, not just people in of influence, people also like in my school, in my general vicinity. I couldn't help it. So one thing that I personally did to tackle this and to feel better about myself was that, like, during my path to recovery, I did this one thing where I would take a post-it every week and I'd write down 3 things I liked about myself that were purely not superficial. Like, I like my smile, I like my confidence, and things that I was genuinely proud of myself for, and I'd stick it on my mirror. So every day when I went to the mirror to, like, you know, obviously size myself up and criticize my body and the way I looked, I would see this post-it instead. That was kind of like this positive reaffirming for me, to make me remember everything else I had going for me. Even if I wasn't completely okay with my body yet, that's okay, because I'm happy with the way I am in XYZ factors. And I think it's so important for people to disassociate from this ideal that their body is everything that matters, and should start reflecting upon how they've made a difference to other people and what they truly value about themselves outside of the way they look.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And first of all, I'm so proud of you for like your progress and everything. I think that's amazing how far you've come. And I just think that like in today's world, at least, like there's this like concept, right? So if I like dress up and like I know I look good, right? Then I can say like, oh, I look good today. But then other people will perceive that as, oh my God, like Sanjana is so conceited, she's so narcissistic. Like feeling good about yourself is automatically like overconfident or like conceited. But like it's like, I don't know how to like phrase this properly, but like generally like in society, right? Like if you see somebody who's like confident with themselves and they actively express that like, I am confident with myself, I look good today, I feel good today, and I know that I'm doing good for like other people, then people will associate you with like being overconfident. So like people are sort of expecting you to be like, oh my God, no, like I don't look pretty today. Like, no, oh my God, stop you. Like, that's like really confusing to me. And like social media has not only just like done that, but I feel like it like makes people like critique themselves a lot more. Like it teaches you to like, okay, like you aren't insecure about this, like, oh my God, I have hip dips. Like I didn't even know that was something to be insecure about until like and like all these people came on social media like, oh my God, get rid of your hip dips. And I was like, really? And now like I'm really
I
about that. So what do you think?
Okay, so I think there's so many double standards to self-love. I think I see so many times social media and like people will post things on their stories like love yourself, you're so beautiful, you're great. But at the same time, for some reason, self-confidence and self-pride is looked down upon. Like I think there's so many double standards there. You can't go around preaching self-love if you don't allow people to openly express that they love themselves. Like what do you expect for people to love themselves internally, but they're not for some reason allowed to tell the world? I don't understand what sense that makes. And I think that again, because of social media, it preaches this double standard. And this is kind of similar to your comment about like insecurities. I think women in general, they tend to have this like I don't know how to put this. They tend to have like making these self-deprecating comments seems to be what makes them attractive or makes them relatable. When like someone like I know that I've seen this happen to me so many times. Like somebody will say, oh, like I love this picture you put up, you look so pretty, and I will feel the need to go, haha, I'm a catfish, like see me in real life and you will think differently. And then I wonder, like, why would I say something like that? Like I don't think I'm that big of a catfish. Like sure, maybe I'm photogenic, but that doesn't make me less attractive. Like I don't know why people and girls in general feel the need to defend themselves when somebody compliments them. I think this is a construct that we really need to deconstruct, because it's so common for us to feel in the wrong when we just accept a compliment. And like, when was the last time any of you just accepted a compliment that came your way by just saying thank you? Like I genuinely cannot remember the last time I could.
Yeah, honestly, we don't do that.
That's true.
And I think it's so crazy that girls have to constantly like put, like, if it's like, oh, you get one positive comment, you have to balance it out with a negative comment of your own and be like, oh, haha, you think I'm pretty, are you sure? And then like over internalize this and be like, no, they don't actually think I'm attractive and they don't actually think I'm this, it's just they're saying it to be polite. It's so toxic. And I think by fully embracing this compliment culture and like learning not to be self-deprecating and hate on yourself to seem relatable is really the first step to embracing self-love and self-confidence. And I think this is definitely a step that people need to take. It's something that people need to talk about. Be like, stop, like especially to girls, stop being self-deprecating. It doesn't make you relatable. It just makes you feel more insecure and portray yourself as more insecure.
That spoke volumes to my soul, honestly. I think that like you were reading like my biography or something, or like my Instagram archives or something. Like literally, somebody would be like, oh my god, like Sanj, you look so good in this picture. I'm like, no, I'm just a catfish. Like, no.
Yes.
That sense of brand for sure. You do that all the time.
I do that all the
exactly.
time. And my brand, literally, like people will say like, oh my god, Sanj is a catfish. I actively promote myself as a catfish.
Yeah, same.
And then they're like, oh my god, like, haha, yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna add on to that. Like, even for me, like, there's so many of my like guy friends and stuff that feel like they're like, oh, ha ha ha, this is an 11 on 10 catfish picture. And I'm like, ha ha ha, yeah. Peace signs. Yeah, I know. Like, you just have to pretend it's okay, and like, because you're the end of the day, you're the ones that's propagating this. Like, I don't know if it's a myth, I don't know if it's true. Like, you're just the one propagating this culture to like call yourself a catfish and like call yourself unattractive in real life, even if that's not necessarily the case. You just feel the need to tell people that's true because you don't want to seem like you're too cocky or narcissistic.
Exactly. No, and like people will be like, oh my god, like such a good picture, and I'm like, no, I'm just like photogenic. Like, no, I'm just a catfish. And like you like deny that, right? And then like there's like a sense of like insecurity that like builds up, and you're like, am I like, are they actually complimenting me? And like social media can be so fake. Like people can be like, oh my god, she's so pretty, but then like Regina George like turn around and be like, no.
Oh, exactly. Like, if you see people's comment sections, if you meet someone for literally 2 minutes, I don't know, like a dinner, you just happen to meet someone, then they'll go on commenting on each other's posts for literally the next 3 years to come, even if you don't actually know the person. And so it comes off as fake because they're just kind of doing it just as like a ritual, or it's just kind of a thing that you have to do. You feel obligated to do it, and so that will propagate the feelings of like, this person's not really thinking I'm pretty. She's just saying this, or he or she's just saying this because they have to do it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think coming back to like people's yeah, coming back to people's like social media and like how they, so people tend to portray their best selves obviously on social media. Are and what they in their minds at least appears to be like the ideal, the better versions of themselves. Or they could even go to the extreme of like photoshopping themselves to make themselves look better. And so let's say a woman or a man or anyone's going through social media, going through the explore page, they're gonna see people and they're gonna obviously hold themselves to those standards and they could become demotivated. But the fact of the matter is what they are seeing is not reality. What they're seeing is an edited, distorted, photoshopped, sometimes oversaturated version of
Yeah,
reality. And I think that just builds
yeah,
like the standard, that's just, it's unfair. And
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
what are your thoughts on this? How do you think we should go about breaking down these like standards or these need to
So
do
I
so?
think I've seen so I think it was a year ago when Demi Lovato like posted this one picture where she deconstructed and like came out with the fact that she has used Photoshop before, and she posted a picture where it's very like obvious that she's got thick thighs and like cellulite and all these other visual quote unquote imperfections that literally 90% of the population has. And she really talked about this, and I think that with more celebrities like opening up about their own beauty standards and how warped they've been to portray this like ideal in terms of the way they look is so important. And I think it's okay for people to portray their best selves. Like I think that this is something that people will never stop doing. Like even for us, I know for me, for instance, like if I'm going out to dinner and I look pretty, I'll feel the need to story that, or like because I feel good about myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna wake up looking crusty and be like, haha, this is a great time to
Yeah.
show this face to the world. I'm not gonna do that, like realistically. And I think that it's important to understand that every single person is going to want to highlight the best portions of their lives. And what's important for other people, like who are watching this, to know is that they don't know anything else that's going on in their life. They don't know when, they were heartbroken. They don't know if they were bullied, if they face their own insecurities. If this projection of their best self is to hide the fact that they feel bad about themselves on some deeper level, like no one knows anything going on in anyone else's life, and by comparing their own, or like the way they look or anything, to this one person based off of what they're seeing on a timeline or like on a couple of stories or on a feed, is just something that people need to understand is just not worth it, because you don't know what's going on in their life. And by comparing yourself to the perfect portions of it, you're only comparing yourself to 5% of whatever that person is. And I think it's really important that, obviously, like I hope Photoshop isn't as used anymore, especially in the beauty industry. And I think that what's really cool is that a lot of magazines and like modeling agencies are now looking for girls with imperfections. Like the number of people that I've seen, like bald girls and like girls with gaps between their teeth and freckles and acne, like it's all being celebrated in the model industry. These visual imperfections are deemed pretty now, and I think that's so important for girls to see that and like understand that their imperfections are what make them beautiful. And I think that fortunately we are headed in that direction, especially because this whole concept of self-love and like body image is being promoted. So I think even the beauty industries understand this and know that like by celebrating people's looks, like that's ethically correct, and it'll help so many other people like not go through dysmorphic like tendencies, or like think that their body hair is just, it's not good, or like look at their face and be like, oh my god, I need to buy every form of acne clearing face wash on the planet to like stop myself from looking this way. Like it's okay, like people pop their pimples, they have scars on their face, it's normal, it's okay. And I think that by celebrating these so-called insecurities that really every single person has. I think I don't think I know too many people without acne, or like without a single pimple on their entire face. Like that's unrealistic. And by understanding that these should not be deemed weird simply because of how common it is, we're taking a step in the right direction.
Mhm. Exactly. And I feel like in this generation where, social media is like an index for beauty and stuff like that, I feel like it's so important. Like, I can't stress on this enough. It's important to, like, use social media to your benefit and kind of put out a
Mhm.
platform where people are so comfortable with themselves, like what you did with No More Bulimia. I feel like it's so important for people to speak up and just share their experiences and kind of make that, community through social media. How
Mhm.
important is that to you? Like, what do you feel about it?
So yeah, I think in general, I've been that one like obnoxiously positive person like on my Instagram from like the ninth grade. I remember I used to get made fun of so much because like I'd post these really non sequitur stories that were like, "You are beautiful. Just love yourself." And like the guys in my grade would be like, "Alekhya, what the hell?" And I would just laugh. But like I feel like originally that was deemed as like really weird and kind of random, but like now with the increasing amount of like light that's being shed upon insecurities, I think it's so important to like reaffirm that like everybody is important and appreciated. And I think having a platform to tell people that their differences are not what make them like ugly, but it's what makes them beautiful instead. And like canceling, I hate using the word cancel culture, but canceling this concept that you have to look a certain way to, or like the numbers on your weighing scale quantify your self-worth, like by rejecting those ideals and like making it clear. I feel like when one person talks about this or like opens up about how they think this is wrong, more people who might have felt this way but never voiced it out might be encouraged to talk about it, or to at least think about it and be like, hey, what I thought about this is something that somebody else thinks too. Like, where I don't think that XYZ is what makes a person attractive. Like, oh yeah, this is something that another person is talking about actively. And when more people speak up about this, when more people provide an encouraging and supportive platform to other people, and it could be as simple as putting up a story or something and saying, I promise that no matter what you're going through, you're valid. And if you need to talk to someone, like you can talk to me. Like just, or you don't even have to do that. By just saying that you reject this idea of superficiality and judging and generally just being like mean to other people based off of things they can't control, other people will start to do the same, and it'll generally just create a more supportive and good atmosphere for other people to feel good about themselves and each other.
I think that's so important. Like you stress this, like everybody is valid, right? And like when we talk about like this idea of like social media and beauty constructs, people automatically think that we're just talking about women. But I just want to reiterate, like for our listeners at least, like it's not just women. It's like people of all
Yeah.
genders. Like people
Yeah.
of all genders through social media have to live up to this like unrealistic body type. Like guys have to have this like Dorito body ratio, or like trans people
Yeah.
have to look like a cisgender person to like try to fit into that box. And I don't think people should be fitting into boxes at all. Like the way you are is like perfectly all right.
Yeah.
And like
Exactly.
things like your height or like your skin or like things that you can't really like control. Like why are you targeting that? And like I can speak from like
Yeah.
personal experience. Like I had such bad acne. I still do, but like in ninth grade, I like there was not one spot on my face without a pimple, and like I hated my skin to this day. I'm so insecure about my skin. That's my biggest insecurity. And like I remember people were just like as a joke, right? Because I don't like on the surface at least, I don't take jokes seriously, right? Like you can like joke about me, my body hair, my skin, like do whatever you want, but like low key it hurts, right? Like
Yeah.
in ninth grade, I remember so
Yeah.
clearly one of my friends, he just like came up to me and he was like, "Oh my god, like pimple face, like what's up?" And I was like, "Ah, ha, ha, ha," like laughed it off. But like
Yeah.
things like that, like it builds up your insecurity.
Yeah.
So do you have
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
advice for like people, not just women, like people in general who are like dealing with insecurities because of like social media or other people?
I think if social media is the root problem for your insecurity, like I think there's so many different places where insecurities build. I think it can be, like you said, schools where people just casually say very insensitive and hurtful, like make insensitive and hurtful comments. But if it's social media where people are, say, comparing themselves to other people, then I think it's very important to kind of detox from it if that is the root for your insecurity or for your lack of like self-love and self-worth. I think it's important to like take a breather and reassess like why this is unimportant, or at least like follow different say Instagram has all these great accounts that also, like, for instance, I don't know if you've heard of Change, but it's like CHNGE, but it's a really cool account where they basically like take different people, and like I saw this one, like because you brought up pimples, there was this one picture, it was a close-up of this girl's like cheek, and it was covered with acne, and like each one had like a letter on it that spelled out "I am beautiful," like on her acne. And I thought that was just, it was so beautiful. And when you see other people who share your features that you're insecure about, and when you see them so confidently portray this and unapologetically call themselves beautiful, I think following those accounts on Instagram or like any other social media that anybody might use is so important. Like there's so many like guys also that I saw on Change again that like they have like skinnier body types, or like, you know, a lot of acne, and like don't have very well defined jawlines, that really celebrate the way they look and the fact that they don't conform to this idealist societal expectation version of them. And I think by looking at that, it and like really connecting with other people based off of the way they look, and understanding that if they're confident, you can be confident too, and there's nothing stopping you, is just really important for people to like look at the other side of social media, like the positive side that doesn't tell you that you're ugly or unattractive, but the side that tells you to celebrate the fact that you've got these features that you cannot change.
Mm-hmm. I do. I think what you said is just so powerful, and everything you said makes so much sense now. I think that it's like not just social media itself. Obviously, social media does influence people and their opinion and what about what ideal body type, things like that. But it's also just people themselves and their prior prejudices and their prior notions about what it is. And I think this is something that is across generations. I think it's something that has to be changed. So, for example, with me, like throughout my life, I've not been like I've always been on the skinny side, and so even like these aunties and like my old teachers would always just tell me, "Tum khati nahi ho kya? Like no one feeds you at home. Like what's happening?"
Yeah.
And I think that they would say as a joke, and they thought it was like a compliment. Honestly, they thought it was a compliment, but like to me, it would hurt. Like I remember I'd gone to my friend's house, like my best friend, and her own mother was like, "Does your mom not feed you?" But you say as a joke, but like it didn't feel that much as a joke to me.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something that like it goes through generations, it goes through different people, and has to be like changed from the grassroots. It has to be something that like I don't know how to change it though. I'm not entirely sure. Like, what do you think? What do you think we can do to change it?
So I don't know, like I do think like now that you brought it up, like alongside fat shaming, there's so much flat shaming that I've seen as well. Like this concept of like, you know, oh, you're too skinny, and like this is like for girls and guys, like, oh my god, you're so flat, like you look two-dimensional, blah blah blah. And like I think skinny shaming, I feel like people are almost afraid to talk about skinny shaming because like society makes them think that it's okay, even if it might reinforce insecurities, like what you said. And I think again, like it's hard to change things from the grassroots level, and on many levels I don't think that the previous generation is going to fully understand like the way we see body types, because it was just so different in their generation. But I think what's important is not focusing as much on them, but focusing on changing, or like at least maybe not even changing, but like modifying the perspectives of people in our generation and the generations to come by reinforcing confidence, reinforcing being healthy, and stop complimenting or making comments to do with anything related to someone's weight. I think that's so unnecessary. Like even when people say, oh my god, you look so skinny, like somebody with an eating disorder that they might not even know might think of this as positive. Like nobody has any idea how someone is losing weight. Like if somebody's anorexic and I have no idea, and I go, oh my god, you've lost so much weight, you look so good, they're gonna think, hey, what I'm doing is right, I should continue on to this trajectory of starvation because it's getting me validation. So I think by like when people stop complimenting people based off of their weight, or like, oh my god, your skin has cleared up so much, good on you, like stop doing that. Because like, and I think that this is something that we as individuals need to be mindful of, because I know that I've done this unconsciously so many times where like I'll see someone like who's lost weight, or like who's face looks a little different, like, or just anything to do with the way they look, and I will compliment them for it without having any idea about what they might have done, which might be self-destructive, to get to the way they are. So I think by like individually complimenting people on things they can actually be proud of, like say for instance, you have a friend who's like a great artist, like compliment them on things that they have worked hard on and that that they have every right and reason to feel proud of, rather than things like weight or like skin or anything like that. And I think when each of us takes that forward and like finds more meaningful ways to compliment other people or to like address these topics, it'll hopefully shape the perspectives not only that they have about other people's self-worth, but the way people look at themselves too.
So I feel like we can go on about, this conversation for a really long time, because all of us, I
Yeah.
feel like it's so important to talk about this right now, this issue. So again, Alekhya, thank you so much for making it. It really meant a lot to us, because it's so important right now to talk about, have these open conversations and open up. And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I hope that people who are listening to this really drew some inspiration and have now, started to practice self-love and just loving themselves and spreading love around you guys. So thank you so much for making Alekhya once again.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me. This is really enjoyable. Yeah.
Okay, that wraps up for today's
right.
episode of She Said What. Hello, everybody. If you're listening to this on Spotify, if you have any thoughts about this episode, just feel free to text us on Instagram. We'll leave Alekhya's Instagram in the description of today's episode and her project as well. Do check it out. And if any of you are facing any of the issues that Alekhya has described in today's episode, feel free to reach out to her. I'm sure that she can get you a lot of help and make you feel truly valued. On that thought, we love all of you. Inika is missing today, but for her sake, I'll just do the exit. Keep vibing. Ew. Okay, bye.